Countdown.
Even if a game features 40+ hours of amazing entertainment, if it doesn't sell you in that first hour, chances are you're going to play something else. You only get one chance to make a first impression, and some games ask quite a lot from the get-go. Most of these 10 examples of difficult, boring, or otherwise uninspiring openings were from games we ended up completing and enjoying, but we were really close to throwing in the towel. Here are some of the worst game openings of all time in alphabetical order.
Dark Souls.
Is your fate.
We begin the list with a game that has every intention to make you break your controller and give up. It's one of the few games that dares you to keep going and actually rewards you, at some point, for your loss of blood and pride with a remarkable RPG experience. The Undead Asylum is a steep hill to climb for first-timers with little to no direction on how to operate the controls and where to go. Some say it makes the experience that much more rewarding when it all begins to click, but if you don't have the patience to get to that point, Dark Souls becomes another game on a shelf that may never get to reveal its greatest moments.
Driver.
Before you can play around in Driver's massive 4-city open-world campaign, you have to first escape the garage. This isn't a tutorial, it's a trial by fire. You're stuck in a car full of criminals with a checklist of vague and trivial tricks they want you to complete. The game won't ever tell you how to do a reverse 180 or what qualifies as a brake check, but it's more than happy to give you a 60-second time limit, and worst of all, some downright hurtful insults.
Maybe I'll give you a call when I need a ride to the grocery store.
Final Fantasy XIII.
Final Fantasy XIII's introduction is so bad, we'll start with the punchline first. In a 13-chapter game, help messages continue to pop up well into the 10th. You heard right, the tutorial is so long that it actually makes up a large majority of the game. It's a joke that almost tells itself, but the real insult here is to the player's intelligence. In learning the game's mechanics, you're led by the nose through an experience as linear and limiting as the game's narrow environments. Strategies are force-fed to you with chapter-specific paradigm shifts, and there seems to be an arbitrary roadblock at every turn, discouraging you to explore and experiment with hard limits on what you can accomplish through character advancement. With the tutorial so long and languid that it feels like a slog, isn't any surprise that the rest of the game felt like much of the same.
Heavy Rain.
Dredging up pathos in a video game is a tricky proposition, more often than not falling on the side of the melodramatic. Heavy Rain's prelude of being a superdad architect with great personal hygiene skills sets the stage for analog shaving and lordly fathering, followed by a mall tragedy, and finally juxtaposed in the aftermath of a man in mourning, trying to be a father to his remaining child. Chores, homework, and watching TV was overplayed and poorly positioned, burning off the few fumes of empathetic melancholy that we're desperately trying to reconstitute. We support interactive drama, but interactive drama better support its lofty ambitions.
I've got some time before Grace and the kids get back. Better get some work done.
Kingdom Hearts 2.
In a character swap that would make Hideo Kojima proud, players expecting to slip into the yellow high tops of series lead Sora were surprised when Kingdom Hearts 2 instead opened with a new hero named Roxas. Our expectations wouldn't have gone so adrift if the opening hadn't featured such mundane activities and frivolous conversations. If you hadn't played Chain of Memories between 1 and 2, then you were even more lost in darkness. Eventually, the events of Roxas and Twilight Town reached an emotional finale, and story bits that had previously seemed bland were actually somewhat significant. But it all could have been done in half the time, and if this series doesn't hold a special place in your heart, it may make you wake up and move on.
The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess.
It's November 2006. Nintendo has just launched its new Wii console, with a long-awaited Zelda acting as its champion. It's high time to grab a sword and conquer some dungeons, but we're fine with wading through Nintendo's tightly crafted tutorials to earn our green tunic. The fantastic fishing is back, shuffled to the forefront, letting us cast and reel with wild abandon through the new power of Waggle. But in a bout of a poorly messaged critical path, you need to catch multiple fish in order to coerce a cat into returning to its master, who will in turn sell you a slingshot, making for an ill-crafted Rube Goldberg torture device before you can even swing a sword that stymied many a player.
Metal Gear Solid 3: Snake Eater.
Getting to the tutorial section of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater is a mission unto itself. After over 15 minutes of cutscenes, your first task comes in the form of recovering a backpack from a tree. If you're lucky enough to find the camouflaged pack amidst the many trees and shrubs, you are then rewarded with over 10 more minutes of text and dialogue. MGS3 ended up being one of the best Metal Gear games ever created, but some seamless on-screen prompts would have done wonders to speed up the pacing for this slog of an opening.
Okami.
When Okami was released for the PlayStation 2, many praised its art style, exploration, and unique brush mechanics. It's a good thing they did, because without the promise of a great game on the other side, it's hard to imagine many people making it past the dry introductory wall of text. Issun's monologue lasts for a whopping 12 minutes, followed by another 8 minutes of character introduction, and the repetitive chattering sound effects only make it worse. In the original PS2 version, you can't skip it or speed it up. You just have to sit there, listen, and hope this game is as good as people say.
Silent Hill 4: The Room.
When you start the game, you're literally inside a room, more specifically your apartment, which is eerily chained shut. This delivered a fresh, creepy experience new to the Silent Hill namesake. However, the moment you crawl out of the random hole found in the bathroom and gaze upon the game's true form, you're whisked away from the atmosphere and deposited into a poorly controlled third-person roamer, where you have a golf swing meter for your melee attacks. Sure, it looks familiar, but the game delivered an amazing first few moments from a first-person perspective, only to throw you into a clunky third-person perspective, vaguely reminiscent of Silent Hill. We'd like to stay in the room, thank you.
Vex.
Vex was an extremely generic Mario 64-style 3D platformer, but a couple of things about the game really stick out. First off, the main character looks like a pint-sized Ben Stiller cosplaying as Raziel from Legacy of Kain: Soul Reaver. In other words, the perfect hop-and-bop mascot for Acclaim, masters of the game. Secondly, the game is a pretty tedious tutorial, the old-fashioned kind, where the game takes 10 seconds to explain something you can accomplish in 1 second, stopping you completely after each step, giving complex instructions like push the analog stick to walk, time to really sink in. After jumping drills, swimming lessons, and practicing combo attacks by punching the crap out of the air, you'll learn about collectibles by running around to pick up 100 pieces of shiny trash, thereby forming a Wraith Heart. Get to the point already.